It was a dark and stormy night. The kind that made you shiver even the lights are on. As I sat alone in my room, trying to distract myself with a book, I couldn't help but feeling uneasy. I had always had a fear of clowns, their painted faces hiding who knows what behind their fake smiles. But tonight, that fear would become a nightmare. I had heard about a series of murders in the town, all victims found with a clown doll in their heads. Some say it was just a coincidence. Others believed it was a serial killer with a twisted sense of humor. I thought it was just another urban legend, until I saw it with my own eyes. I was walking home from a late night at the library, trying to hurry home before the storm hit. As I turned the corner, I saw a figure standing under a flickering street lamp. My heart stopped when I realized it was a clown, dressed in bright colors and holding a large balloon. I tried to walk faster, but my legs couldn't cooperate. I was frozen in fear as the clown slowly turned its head to look at me. Its painted smile seemed to grow wider, almost reaching its ears. I finally managed to force myself to move and ran towards my house, not daring to look back. I locked the door behind me and sat on the couch, trying to catch my breath. I told myself it was just a prank, someone trying to scare me. But deep down, I knew it was something more sinister. The next day, the town was in a frenzy. Another body had been found, this time with a clown mask on its face. The police were no closer to catching the killer, but I knew it was the clown I had seen last night. I tried to warn my friends and family, but no one took me seriously. They thought I was just being paranoid. As the days went by, more and more bodies were discovered, all with the same clown mask and doll. The town was gripped with fear, no one wanting to leave their houses after dark. But I couldn't shake off the feeling that the clown was after me. I could feel its presence everywhere I went, its painted eyes following me. One night, I woke up to the sound of laughter. It was a twisted, maniacal laughter that sent chills down my spine. I slowly got out to bed and crept towards my window, trying to find the source of the sound. And that's when I saw it. The clown was standing in my backyard, its balloon now deflated and hanging limply from its hand. It was staring right at me, its painted eyes glowing in the moonlight. I quickly closed my curtains and locked all the doors. I wanted to call the police, but I knew they wouldn't believe me. The clown was playing a sick game with me, taunting me with its presence. I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night, constantly checking over my shoulder. The next day, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I did a research on the town's history and discovered that there was a legend about a clown who terrorized the town years ago. He was a circus performer who was fired for his sadistic acts towards animals. The townspeople drove him out and he disappeared, never to see him again. But some say he still haunts the town, seeking revenge on those who wronged him. I knew I had to find a way to stop before he killed again. Armed with this knowledge, I set out to find the clown. I searched abandoned buildings, old circus tents, and even the sewers, but there was no sign of him. I was starting to lose hope when I received a letter in the mail. It was addressed to me and had a small clown doll inside. The letter read, "You can't hide from me. I always find my prey. I'll see you soon." I was horrified, but I knew I had to face the clown head on. I couldn't let him hurt anyone else. That night, I set a trap in my backyard, using the clown doll and my phone as bait. I waited in my house, constantly checking the security cameras I had installed. And finally, I saw him. The clown was creeping towards the doll, its shadow dancing in the moonlight. I called the police, hoping they would arrive before it was too late. But before they could get there, the clown turned towards the camera and stared right at me. Its painted eyes seemed to pierce through the screen, and I could feel its malevolent energy even from a distance. I grabbed a baseball bat and ran outside, determined to end this once and for all. The clown lunged at me, its doll-like features controlling into a snarl. I swung the bat, connecting its face and knocking it to the ground. It let out a blood-curdling scream, and then it disappeared, a puff of smoke where it had been standing. The police arrived shortly after it took me into custody. They were skeptical of my story and thought I was the serial killer all along. But when they searched my backyard, they found the clown doll and my phone with the evidence of the clown's existence. They didn't know how to explain it, but they knew I wasn't lying. In the end, the clown's true identity was never discovered. Some believed he was a ghost, while others thought it was just a disturbed individual using the legend for their own sick game. But I knew the truth. The clown was real, and he had come for me. The experience changed me forever. I still have fear of clowns, but now I also have the fear of what lurks in the darkness. I will never forget that night, when my worst fear turned into a horrifying reality. And I will always wonder when the next stormy night comes, if the clown will return to me. As I sat on my couch watching a scary movie, there was a sudden knock on my door. I paused the movie and cautiously made my way to the door. Through the peephole, I could see the figure wearing a clown suit and mask. My heart raced with fear, but I tried to rationalize it by telling myself that it was probably a Halloween prank. I opened the door and the clown stepped inside, his rubber shoes squeaking against the hardwood floor. "Can I help you?" I asked, trying to keep the fear out of my voice. The clown didn't respond. He just stood there, staring at me with his unblinking eyes. I couldn't see his face under the mask, but I could feel his cold gaze piercing through me. "Is this some kind of a joke?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The clown suddenly lunged towards me, his hand gripping my throat with a surprising strength. I struggled against his hold, but he seemed to be fueled by some unknown force. As I gasped for air, his laugh filled the room, a deep and terrifying sound that seemed to come from all the bowels of hell. Just when I thought I was going to pass out, the clown released me and disappeared into the darkness. I stumbled backwards, gasping for breath and trying to process what had just happened. Was this some kind of nightmare? But as I looked around, I saw the muddy footprints that the clown had left behind on my floor. It was not a dream. This was real, and I was in grave danger. I quickly locked all my doors and windows and called the police. I explained the situation to them, but they didn't seem to take it seriously. They brushed it off as a Halloween prank and assured me that they would send a patrol car to check the area. But as the night went on, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being watched. Every little noise made me jump. Every shadow seemed to hide the clown's sinister presence. I tried to convince myself that it was all in my head, that I was just being paranoid. But then, I heard a sound coming from my backyard. I grabbed a flashlight and slowly made my way to the back door. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still dark and cloudy. As I shone the flashlight around, my heart skipped a beat when I saw the clown standing in the middle of the yard. He was holding a bloody knife in one hand and a bouquet of balloons in the other. He slowly turned towards me, his painted smile sending shivers down my spine. "Do you want to play?" he asked, his voice dripping with malice. I screamed and ran back inside, bolting the door shut behind me. I could feel the clown's cold laughter following me, mocking me. He seemed to be toying with me, enjoying my fear. I sat on the floor of my living room, my back pressed against the door, trying to calm myself down. But just as I was starting to relax, there was a sudden crash from upstairs. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. With trembling hands, I slowly made my way up to the stairs, my footsteps echoing through the empty hallway. I checked each room, but they were all empty. But then, I heard a soft tapping sound coming from my bedroom. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door. And there, sitting on my bed, was the clown. He was playing with a blood-stained balloon, his twisted smile sending me into a panic. He stood up and started advancing towards me, his balloon trailing behind him like a sinister shadow. I backed away until I hit a wall, my breath coming to a short gasp. The clown was standing in front of me, his breath hot against my face. "I've come to play, just like you wanted," he said, his voice filled with malice. I closed my eyes, trying to come up with a plan to escape, but when I opened them, the clown was gone. I searched the room frantically, but there was no sign of him. And then I noticed a note lying on my bed. It read, "I will be waiting for you at midnight. Don't make me come looking for you." My heart sank as I remembered that it was already 11:30 p.m. I had to get out there before it was too late. I grabbed my phone and called the police, begging them to send someone to my house immediately. But they still weren't taking me seriously. They told me it was probably just a prank and I should stay calm. But there was no way I could stay calm. As I waited for police to arrive, I could feel the seconds ticking by, each one bringing me closer to midnight and the clown's promise to make me suffer. Finally, I heard sirens in the distance and a sense of relief washing over me. But as I opened the front door to let the police in, I was struck with horror. The clown was standing on my porch, his eyes burning with the otherworldly fire. "Midnight has come," he said, his voice low and menacing. I screamed for help as the clown lunged towards me, but it was too fast. He grabbed me and dragged me outside, his grip like steel. I could hear the police shouting behind me, but they seemed frozen in fear. The clown dragged me to the edge of my yard, where the circle of candles had been lit. In the center of the circle was a pentagram made of blood. I was too terrified to move as the clown raised his knife, ready to strike. But then, with a deafening roar, the police car pulled up and the officers finally sprung into action. They shot the clown, who let out a blood-curdling scream before disappearing with a puff of smoke. The candles went out, and the sky turned back into its usual color. As I was taken away in an ambulance, I couldn't believe what had just happened. Was I hallucinating? Was this all just a nightmare? But the police found evidence that proved someone had been in my house and had been planning this for days. The memories of that night will haunt me forever. I never liked clowns. Their painted-on smiles and exaggerated expressions never failed to make me feel uneasy. But when I encountered the killer clown, my fear turned into a pure terror. It was a typical summer evening, the sun setting in the distance as I made my way home from work. I took my usual shortcut through the park, hoping to avoid the crowded streets. As I passed the old abandoned carnival grounds, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. A figure in a clown costume standing eerily still in the darkness. Instinctively, I quickened my pace, my heart beating faster with each step. But as I glanced back, the clown was gone. I brushed it off as my imagination playing tricks on me and continued on my way. But from that day on, I would see the clown everywhere. in the grocery store, at the gas station, even outside of my office window. Each time, it seemed to be getting closer, its eerie smile never leaving its painted face. My friends and coworkers thought I was losing my mind. They didn't believe me when I told them about the clown following me. They thought it was just a harmless prank or a publicity stunt for the carnival. But I knew better. I knew it was after me. One night, as I lay in bed trying to fall asleep, I heard a faint tapping on the window. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just a tree branch. But the tapping grew louder and more persistent. With trembling hands, I pulled back the curtains to reveal the grinning face of the killer clown staring at me. I screamed and backed away, my heart pounding in my chest. But when I looked back, the clown was gone. I told myself it was just a nightmare, that I had fallen asleep and it was all just a figment of my imagination. But I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that lingered. The next day, I decided to take a different route to work, hoping to avoid any more sightings of the clown. But as I turned a side street, I saw a group of children gathered around and a balloon animal on the ground. As I got closer, I could see that the balloon animal was in the shape of a knife, the twisted face of the killer clown leering up at me. My blood ran cold as I realized that there was not a coincidence. The clown was leaving a trail for me to follow, and I knew I had to find out who was behind the clown before it was too late. I spent the next few days researching the history of the abandoned carnival grounds, trying to uncover any clues that may lead me to the killer clown. Finally, I made across to an old newspaper article from 20 years ago. It detailed the tragic story of Sparky the Clown, a beloved performer at the carnival, who had gone missing one summer and was never found. As I read more, the pieces started to fall into place. The killer clown was Sparky, seeking revenge for his supposed abandonment all those years ago. And he was after me, for some twisted reason. I thought I was going to the police, but I knew they would never believe me. This was my problem to deal with, and I had to find a way to end it. That night, I gathered all the information I had and decided to confront Sparky at the abandoned carnival grounds. As I made my way through the dark and crumbling amusement park, I can feel his presence growing ever stronger. And then I saw him, standing in front of an old funhouse, his painted face staring back at me with a mixture of anger and satisfaction. I took a deep breath and called him out, demanding to know why he was tormenting me. But my words fell on deaf ears as Sparky lunged at me with a knife in hand. I dodged his attack and ran towards the funhouse, hoping to find some sort of weapon to defend myself. But as I entered the funhouse, I realized it was a trap. The walls were lined with mirrors, each one reflecting the clown's image as he closed in on me with every angle. My heart pounded in my chest as I frantically searched for a way out. That's when I saw it, a rusty hatchet hanging on the floor. With trembling hands, I reached for it and swung it at Sparky, hoping that this would end the nightmare once and for all. But the clown was quick, dodging my swings and laughing maniacally as he continued to come at me. I was running out of time and energy when I remembered a trick learned from an old horror movie. I aimed the hatchet at the ground, causing the mirrors to shatter and the shards to fly towards Sparky. He let out a blood-curdling scream as the glass cut through his painted face, causing him to stumble back in pain. I took this opportunity to escape the funhouse and run towards the exit. But just as I reached the gate, I heard a voice call out to me. "You can't escape me!" Sparky growled, his voice distorted and inhuman. I turned to see him standing at the entrance of the funhouse, surrounded by a cloud of balloons. With a deep breath, I threw the hatchet at the balloons and watched as they all popped, causing Sparky to disappear in a puff of smoke. I stood there, panting and shaking, realizing it was all over. The police arrived shortly after, having arrived a call from a concerned neighbor who had heard the commotion. It took some time to convince them that the killer clown was after me, but eventually they believed me when they found the abandoned carnival grounds and saw the evidence of my struggle with Sparky. As they took me away from the nightmare that had consumed me for weeks, I couldn't help but think about how easily it could have turned out differently. To this day, I still get uneasy when I see a clown or a balloon animal. I never used to be afraid of clowns. In fact, I used to love them. As a child, I would eagerly await the arrival of the circus in our town, excited to see the colorful clowns and their silly antics. But now, I can't even look at the clown without feeling a shiver run down my spine. It all started with a certain clown, a creepy killer clown. It was the summer of my 13th birthday when I first encountered him. My friends and I had snuck out of the house for the late-night adventure. We decided to explore the abandoned amusement park on the outskirts of town. It was rumored that the circus had used to perform there and had been shut down due to the freak accident involving one of the clowns. As we made our way through the dilapidated rides and faded signs, I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being watched. My friends didn't seem to notice, so I brushed it off as my imagination. But as we approached the big top tent, I froze in my tracks. There, standing under the flickering lights, was a clown. But this wasn't like any clown I have ever seen. He was tall, standing at least 6 feet, with a pale white face and blood-red lips. His eyes were dark and seemed to follow our every move. In his hand, he held a large rusty knife. I screamed, grabbing my friends and pulling them back towards the entrance of the park. We ran as fast as we could, no looking back until we were safely inside my friend's house. We were all out of breath and shaking, trying to make sense of what we had just seen. But as the night went on, I couldn't shake off the feeling that the clown was still watching me. I couldn't sleep, knowing that he was out there, waiting. And it wasn't long before my fears were confirmed. The next day, the local news reported a string of murders in our town. The victims were all found with a smile carved into their faces, and witnesses reported seeing a clown in the area. My heart raced as I realized that the clown from the abandoned amusement park was the same one responsible for these horrific crimes. I tried to tell my friends, but they brushed it off as a coincidence. Well, that is, until one of our friends went missing. We knew we had to do something before it was too late. With trembling hands, we went to the police and told them everything. But they didn't believe us. They thought we were just trying to make up a scary story. Frustrated and scared, we took our matters in our own hands. We went back to the amusement park, determined to find evidence to prove our claims. It didn't take long for us to stumble upon a hidden room behind the big top tent. Inside, we found the clown's lair. The walls were covered in disturbing clown faces, and there were piles of bloody knives scattered in the room. But the most chilling part was the large, life-size clown doll sitting in the corner. It resembled the creepy killer clown, but this one had the same stitched into its red and white suit. Smiley. Suddenly, we heard a noise behind us. We turned around to find the killer clown standing in the doorway, a sinister smile on its face. Before we could react, he lunged at us with his knife. We ran for our lives, screaming as we made our way through the abandoned park. We were able to escape, but the killer clown wasn't done with us. Over the next few weeks, He continued to torment us, leaving creeping notes and sinister messages. We were all terrified, living in constant fear of the clown, what he would do next. But it wasn't until the night of my 14th birthday that the clown made his final move. My parents had organized a surprise party for me at the abandoned amusement park, thinking it would be fun and a unique experience. Little did they know, it was the perfect trap set by the killer clown. As I walked into the big top tent, surrounded by my friends, I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being watched. And that's when I saw him, standing in the center of the ring with a sinister grin on his face. The clown started to laugh as he revealed his true identity. It was one of my classmates, someone I had known for years. He had always been an outcast, but I never would have suspected to be capable of such horror. He had been obsessed with the circus and clowns since he was a child, and after hearing about the tragic accident at the amusement park, he saw it as an opportunity to bring his twisted fantasies to life. As he began to chase us with his knife, we all scattered, desperately running for our lives. But one by one, my friends fell victim to the killer clown. I could hear the screams as he caught them and carved his sinister smile into their faces. But I refused to give in my fear. I ran as fast as I could, determined to escape, and just when I thought I had made it to safety, Smiley appeared in front of me, blocking the exit. I closed my eyes, accepting my fate. But when I opened them, the clown was gone. All that was left was a note addressed to me. It read, "Happy birthday, my dear. See you next year." And with a chill running down my spine, I knew that the killer clown would continue to haunt me, year after year, until he was caught or until he had completed his twisted goal of turning me into one of his victims. To this day, I can't look at a clown without seeing Smiley's sinister grin. And I can't but wonder who will be his next victim.